What happened to iDubbbz?
Now, this isn't a chronicling of a man's entire career, disseminating his catalog of videos to chronicle the descent into madness. I'm no downward spiral connoisseur. I'm no down the rabbit hole kid. This is purely just a means to pontificate, to analyze, and really just get some thoughts kind of put into the ether. As I'm sure we all know, iDubbbz is a content creator on the platform of YouTube. At this point in time, he has about 7.23 million subscribers. He's had over 300 videos, I guess, counting the ones that he's delisted. And really, if anything, he was at the forefront of the renaissance of the commentary community. He inspired a lot of your more prolific creators that would follow in his suit in kind of giving his in-depth analysis and criticisms of creators on the platform. As of late, he's been hyper-analyzed by the people that he as a cuck, as a fraud, as a hypocrite. Any number of words that you can throw at the man has tarnished his image and really tarnished his credibility. And what I wanted to do was just kind of really take a look, not necessarily at that, and not really even point at Anisa as this arbiter of lamitude, as a lot of people want to point at her for being, because that's not really my perspective. It's been made pretty clear that Anisa was there at the height of the N-word stuff, saying things like that she was there for, she was at least there for the Tanamangu video, and I think that's the height of his slur controversy, right, is really there. Like, that was the N-word pass that was given to all creators because he coined the ideology that either all of it is okay, none of it is okay. And that gave people a semblance of acceptance that said, well, he's right. He's coming at this with an in-depth perspective, and he's right? We shouldn't be holding this up to a certain standard, so let's all just devolve into madness and just say all the slurs that we want all the time, because all of them are okay. Whatever your perspective on the use of slurs, that's you, as long as you can go to bed comfortably at night. I don't really give a shit. I've said my fair share of gamer words in the past, so I'm not really going to pass any judgment on anybody else. And I also don't immediately think that anybody is racist for using them, because there's plenty of things that you can say that are deeply racist and deeply discriminatory without ever even uttering a single curse word. I can't tell you how many times I've been told, oh, thank God you sound like an American, coming from a perspective as a call center worker. It's just fucking blatantly obvious what people think about, race and, how people sound and bullshit like that. It's whatever. I don't give a shit. But ultimately, I think it's very interesting, really, why iDubbbz is kind of in the situation that he's in and kind of what has led to this point. Because it all really starts with, Filthy Frank. Filthy Frank was a creator that really revolutionized the aspect of cringy edgelord content. It was very low effort. It was nonsensical. And it was almost as offensive as it could possibly be. There was a shock jock value that came from it, and it inspired a lot of creators to this day. When people think about the Mount Rushmore of YouTube content creators, I really think that we can't deny that TV Filthy Frank and Joji, or however you want to refer to him as, we can't deny that he belongs up there because he was the hero for the underdog. He was the guy that said, well, fucking, if he can do it, I can do it. Your grassroots, homegrown, whatever, he really kind of gave that inspiration. And with that, we have also Max Mofo, somebody that I'm not as familiar with, but definitely was in this same prank, just edgy, gross more than anything, just kind of a gross out humor. And with Filthy Frank really created just a generation of comedy, really starting with the vomit cake videos and just kind of expanding beyond that. And it's really because of Max that we have iDubbbz being brought into the fold with the infamous hair cake video. And all three of these content creators would kind of ramble around, really producing some of the scummiest and best content that YouTube has ever had. These three were kind of the pillars of edgy, jackass style, I want to be them for your dumb, shitty teenagers and young adults back, like fucking 10 years ago, almost at this point. And really, I think the big difference that we see between the three of these is really, in essence, how they interact with their fans. Because they all kind of brought their own slice of whatever to the stage. And each of them kind of had different relationships with their respective fan bases. And I think all three of them have kind of treated them a little bit differently. And I think it's emblematic of just grander things, whatever. I feel like I'm fucking rambling about nonsense at this point. But like when you think about Filthy Frank, right, there was a time where he tried to bring more genuine, more authentic him into the fold. I mean, you see that with like the Joji vlogs and introducing, George as a character. You can tell that he wanted people to realize that he wasn't this vile racist man, and that there was something behind it, right? And it was probably kind of create a schism. And then eventually, just because of the contentious relationship that he had with his fan base, I mean, that kind of just disappeared. And a lot of those videos that featured that version of him have been wiped clean. And there was a very clear fan to creator divide, right? He was the creator making content, and he very rarely interacted with his fans in a genuine manner, right? And that's kind of like generally how that existed. And then you have Max Mofo, who, I mean, on his main channel, the last upload he had is really the Deadly Twister 2, which is, kind of the last bastion of that content between these three. Between that and, Filthy Frank releasing the video, it's like there really isn't much more from what they had done together beyond that video. And I'm sure there is some bullshit within that. I don't give a shit enough to fucking really check my facts, basically. But even there's this, kind of killing of a channel. And granted, Max went on to make, Pokemon unboxing videos, and he kind of ebbs and flows out of making content on his own, and has really, found his, slice of fun with Cold Ones. But, really, beyond the days of the Shrimpson Boys content really didn't continue, right, in a meaningful way as far as like main channel content goes. And then we have iDubbbz, who, if anything, used the Shrimpson Boy content to launchpad his career. When he did that vomit cake video, when I subscribed to him, he had less than 100,000. Like, this was really his opportunity to achieve that mainstream success. And he really took that ball and he fucking ran with it. There's really kind of no other way to put it. I mean, he was doing the Kickstarter crap, which evolved, and then the bad unboxing. Like, these were videos that he was putting out on an almost regular basis, over and over and over again. And the way that he produced content with his face forward, speaking to the camera, interacting with fans, whether, even if it's through a PO box, really had an opportunity to really gather a parasocial relationship in a way that these other two content creators really didn't do. And with that, I mean, people fell in love with him. They appreciated, whatever bullshit was coming from it, and they latched onto it because not only was he the bastion of edgy content, there was just something about it. There was something absurd. There was something, you knew that with the shamelessness that iDubbbz had, that you were gonna get something crazy, that he was going to say something outlandish, do something outlandish, and it really didn't. It wasn't the slurs, right, that kept people coming along. I even sat down and was watching old bad unboxings, and I really think that the core to his humor and really what made these things work and really what captivated in terms of entertainment and comedy is that iDubbbz played the straight man. He, despite doing, some revolting bullshit and dealing with revolting bullshit, he presented it in a very straight man way. He wasn't over the top. He was very dry. He was very flat. And I think that is what made it, right? Through the chaos that his videos presented, he was the straight man most of the time. Now, granted, there was plenty of times where he fucking dresses up in all orange or fucking does some dumb bullshit, but ultimately he was the straight man. But it's really that style of content that really kind of allowed him to create a connection. It allowed him to create a connection with his fan base. And within that content, we have his content cops, right? Where he takes his straight man, his no nonsense attitude, and he points that at content creators, and he's hypercritical of their actions, of how they treat people, of how they treat their fans, of how they treat their influence. And he highlights it, and he uses it, and he uses skits and all this dumb bullshit to make them big events, right? Everybody looked forward to a content cop. When is the next content cop? And they always kind of surprised you, but there's some pretty heavy hitters that existed there. But it was the same, approaching with intelligence, approaching with just being thoughtful, ultimately, is what it did. It was some time, right, whether it be Adpocalypse, whether it be any number of other things, because views-wise, he really never lost steam until just recently. I mean, even, after scaling down the bad unboxings, scaling down the uses of naughty words, he was still relatively successful in the amount of views that he was able to get. I mean, he did the world's largest toy popper, which comes out, just before COVID, September 14th of 2019, and isn't the best video, and is him kind of making an attempt at a new style of content where he's a little bit more exploratory, where he's potentially just a little bit jealous of Michael Reeves and things of that nature, but experimenting with the content type, and is a relatively safe video, and it still garnered over 15 million views. And that's the thing, it's that it isn't really until recently that his views really started to dwindle. Despite the pulling back, we'll say, from his core content and what he believes to be his core style, right? The content cops take a slow. They almost get replaced by these documentaries that he starts making, which is like the Full Force and the Ice Cream Man. Still these event things, still very smart, still very thoughtful, still very creative, and just really highlights the talent in terms of filmmaking that iDubbbz has. But there's just something around this era, right, about 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago, where he starts floundering, where he's unsure of what to do. He's unsure of the direction that he wants to go in, even though relatively his videos are pretty successful. And I think potentially what it really comes down to is he kind of stopped, he stops using slurs. And I think internally, he internalized something that doesn't necessarily exist, because what ends up happening is that I think he's insecure. I think ultimately he becomes insecure of the content that he's making. He becomes insecure in himself as a content creator, something that all content creators, I think in general, will go through. At some point in time, if you have devoted your life to creating content, at some point you're going to ask yourself and you're going to say, do I really have what it takes? Am I really that entertaining? Do people really think that I'm funny? Or am I just the autistic kid that everybody is like, oh, I'm so proud of you. And then, secretly under their breath, they're like, Jesus Christ, I wish this guy would leave me alone. We all feel that at some point, and I think that iDubbbz felt it in a way that kind of hijacked his sense of self. I've never really, in these past couple of months with this new podcast and really just the Froggy Fresh controversy and the Sam Hyde controversy, it's really just highlighted the fact that this man is deeply insecure with his ability to be funny and with his ability to entertain and with his ability to influence. There is something that has happened that has prevented him from recognizing that he's a deeply talented person, and he's allowed it to really fuck himself over. It's just upsetting, right? I mean, this man he said that he took comedy classes. He was taking comedy classes, for Christ's sake. iDubbbz, nobody's really pressing on this, and nobody really kind of highlighted it in a way that I thought was like important. iDubbbz is taking comedy classes. He's taking classes to make him more funny, so that when he presents himself, it's going to be plastic and clean. And it's really absolving him of any charm that he had prior to any of this controversy. And it's something that he's really been lacking. I think this is upwards of, like I said, genuinely the last, 5 to 6 years of content has just this. And what we're seeing, like there was something back then that was the catalyst, and now we're just seeing the results. Now we're seeing, what comes from that. And really what it is just piss poor, boring content and just awful. I guess there's something about, I don't know if you've ever watched any of his live streams recently, but they're just like the most miserable thing to fucking watch. It's so uninspired. It's so low effort. It's so it's who he is genuinely, but I don't know. It's fucking bad, dude. It's fucking bad. And ultimately, I think just as somebody who's, fantasized deep in the night about creating content, it's really just something that I really just hope he figures it out. I really hope that he finds out or recognizes his actual potential, right? Maybe he needs to go back and watch some of his videos, because nobody with the right mind thinks, oh, iDubbbz isn't funny anymore because he doesn't use the N-word, because he doesn't say the F slur. Nobody thinks that. Nobody in their right mind points at that as the reason that he's not funny anymore. And nobody points at the content cop and says, well, he's not doing that anymore because it's just not worth it. Because he literally was making 10 million views on his stupid bad unboxing videos, and those are probably the least amount of effort that he could put in. Literally less than 10 minutes, him just fucking opening shit, reacting, pretending to barf, and people fucking loved it. Laugh at the clown kids before he fucking kills himself. It's just bullshit. And I just hope that ultimately he figures out what the fuck he's doing, he gets his head screwed on straight, and just gets back to making content. Just gets back to finding something that is fun, something that I don't know, man. I don't even know if it's at this point it's even worth it or if it's even able. But it's just, I don't know, man. You can just you look at his channel and you look at the videos and it's just floundering. He's just desperately throwing cheese at a wall, and it's bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. All right, babies. Smooches. Catch you in the next one.